So, when I was married, towards the end, I had a part-time job at Sainsbury's. I took it to keep me active, keep me fit. It was quite a physical job. And after the divorce, then through necessity, the part-time job became a full-time job. Well, it became more than a full-time job. I was doing, somewhat illegally, I was doing up to 100 hours a week. And I had an accident at work, and I won't go into the whole story, but I ended up being forced to work a 12-hour shift on 2 broken legs, which did quite a bit of damage, nerve damage and soft tissue and all of that. So I was off work for a long time, and eventually, when I went for my return to work interview, it was seen that I wasn't fit to do the job, and they decided that they would sack me for gross misconduct rather than, mess about trying to find a job that I was physically capable of doing. So, as you might expect, I sued them. However, that meant that there was a period of time where I had no income. So I needed something to do, and it suddenly occurred to me that when I'd been a student, I had a job in the evenings delivering pizzas for Mario's Pizza Casa in Studley in Warwickshire. And I remember it being quite a fun and well-paying job back then. Plus, you get free food, which, when you're skint, is quite an important thing. So I thought, well, I'll look for one of those jobs while this court thing is banging on and so on and so on and so forth. So that's what I did. I had a look at the old adverts and found a place that was looking for a delivery driver. And that place was a Nepalese restaurant in Clay Cross. I'd driven past it countless times, thousands, tens of thousands of times, but never really paid any attention to it. Didn't know anything about Nepal or Nepali people or Nepali food or anything like that, but they desperately needed a driver, and I desperately needed an income. So, Boo, my then fiance, lent me £200 so that I could buy a little Nissan Micra. My actual car at that time was the car I left the marriage with, which was a Lexus 4x4. So she lent me 200 quid, I bought a little Nissan Micra, and I started working for this Nepalese restaurant on a casual basis, couple of nights a week, delivering takeaways. And the couple of nights a week kind of turned into pretty much every night. But of course, I'm a massive foodie, and in the dim and distant past, my very first job was running pub restaurants. So the drivers would sort of hang about out in the car park, and members of staff would come out with takeaways that needed delivering. The drivers would pop them into their bags, bugger off, deliver them, go back to the car park. I started edging my way closer and closer to the kitchen because I'm fascinated by commercial kitchens. So I wanted to see what was going on in there. I wanted to see the food, I wanted to see the chefs, I wanted to see the techniques. So I just started getting closer and closer to the kitchen. And I remember one night, it was a really busy service. I was standing just at the door to the kitchen, purportedly waiting for a takeaway, but in fact just having a good old squiz, a good old look at everything that was going on in the kitchen. It was a super busy service. They were all, run off their feet, and there was a spill. So, without thinking about it, I just grabbed the mop and started clearing up this spill, and nobody objected. Nobody objected to it, and just gradually I just started moving further and further into the kitchen and just trying to make myself useful in any way that I could without getting in the proper staff's way. And I would jump in at the end of the night, and I'd clean down with them and do all of that sort of thing. And without being asked and without really being given permission, I just sort of wheedled my way in there, and obviously started talking to the guys and getting to know each other, and they were fascinated by certain things about me. As we, because you do talk in a kitchen, especially when you're doing stuff like cleaning down and whatnot. So you're not concentrating on food or dressing a plate or the actual cooking or anything like that, and you end up just having a good old chat. And Nepali guys in the UK, they're really interested in money. They come from a very poor place. They work their asses off. They send money back home. They buy land back home. And they were fascinated by the idea that I once had money and no longer had money and was okay with it. And that I'd done this, that and the other, but I was perfectly willing to, for no pay, I was perfectly willing to jump in and help them with all of the dirtiest jobs. And they were also fascinated by the fact that I was so interested in the food, and I was trying to learn about it and all of that sort of thing. Now, back in those days, in the very early days at Clay Cross, the thing that fascinated them most was that I had owned Ferraris. That really was of interest to them, and they used to call me Jason Ferrari to begin with, and it all just really went from there. We became family effectively, and because I had, because they think I'm a native English speaker. English obviously isn't my first language. But because I had business experience, because I have legal experience, legal training, etc., 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 we found that I could be helpful in various ways, and it became like a mutual thing. I would help them out in any way that I could, and they would really look after me, because remember, at that point in time, I was skint, couldn't afford food, all of that sort of thing, and yeah, that was it. It all kind of, that's how it happened, and it all just grew from there. So at this point, I'm working in Claycross 7 nights a week. Then there was the court case, and so on and so on and so on. But then opened the second restaurant, and I started working between the two restaurants. Then I'm trying to remember the exact timeline here. Boo and I started our new life together. We'd been living separately. She lived in Leicester. We started a new life together in Matlock Bath, using the money that I got from the court case. Obviously, I didn't win as such. It never actually got to court. They settled out of court literally the day before the first day of what was penciled in as a 5-day hearing. And when we moved to Matlock Bath, I was a lot closer to the new restaurant in Ripley than I was to the old restaurant in Claycross. Plus, I really bonded especially well with all of the guys in Claycross. And they were saying, come here full time, come here every night, blah blah blah, and they kind of bribed me to do it, but it made sense because it was a lot closer. And as I say, I'd really particularly bonded with the guys there, and I didn't feel like I was being disloyal because Bishnu, the big boss, who is, by that point was like a brother to me, obviously he owned both restaurants, so it's not like I'm being disloyal. And that was it. That was how I ended up at Kathmandu, Gurkha, Ripley. And there we are. We've kind of poodled along happily together ever since. We got through the pandemic, we got through the financial crisis. People have come and people have gone, but Ram and I have been constants all the way through. Now you might ask, so if you work and have worked long term at a successful restaurant with people whom you love and who love you as family, how are you poor? Well, that's a good question, and there are a few reasons for it. And one of them is that the system of employment within a Nepali business is kind of, in a way, forgive me, based on exploitation. But there's a reason for that. If a Nepali guy comes to the UK, then he has made a lot of sacrifices to do that. He will have incurred a hell of a lot of debt. He'll have made great personal sacrifices, like leaving his wife and children behind him. And they come to the UK and they will be employed by a business, probably with a familial connection, and they will have to work like dogs for very little money indeed. But the reason is, when they come to the UK and make those sacrifices, put themselves into that financial hardship, they've got one aim and one aim only. They want their own business. So it wouldn't matter how well a business treated them, they would leave. They would leave because they want their own business. That is everybody's aim. So knowing this, and knowing that a Nepali arriving in the UK has got little choice as to where to work, and they're going to need to work in the industry where they plan to have their own business, which 99 times out of 100 is a restaurant, then they need that job in that restaurant, so employers exploit them, knowing that even if they treated them like kings, in 5 years' time, when they've built up enough money to start their own business and gained enough experience, they're going to bugger off. So that's the way that it works. I am not paid very well. Also factor in, I don't work the hours that anybody else works. I work effectively part-time. I might go in 6 days a week, but only for a relatively few number of hours compared to everybody else who'll be in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and leaving at midnight. I don't do that, as you know. They laugh at me for this. I waft in when they've done most of the hard work, toss about for a couple of hours, take food and go home before anybody else. It's just the way it's worked out, because I'm not a chef, I'm not a waiter, so the things that I do, I don't need 8 hours a day to do them. There isn't enough to do 8 hours a day. I look after the marketing, I look after some of the admin, I look after social media, I deal with correspondence, and I do bits front of the house and in the kitchen during service, that kind of thing. But they've always made it very clear that they would love to go into business with me. It's just a question of what the business would be and when. So, for example, if we were to open another restaurant, since the pandemic, I've had the idea of opening up a dark kitchen somewhere to the south of Sheffield and serving Sheffield, where there isn't an existing Nepali restaurant. In the meantime, while we've been waiting for some business idea to present itself, I've tried various kind of side hustles to become less poor, as a lot of my long-term viewers knew or know. Initially in 2016 I set up the UK singles community and tried to add some profit-making elements to that, like a dating website, and the community aspect worked beautifully, but I never made a single penny from it. What else? Then of course there was YouTube, which again I've loved every minute of it, but God knows it hasn't as yet provided enough of an income to really make a difference. I had to go at flogging cars with mustard. A lot of you know how well that worked out. But now there is a genuine business opportunity looming that could be a real game changer for me personally. And that of course is the Airbnb. But I'll talk more about that later when I talk to you about and show you the actual restaurant itself. Yellow car, no return. And this is the restaurant right in the middle of the town square of Ripley, a small market town in Derbyshire. Now, the building was originally a pub, and then it became the first Indian restaurant in the area, owned by a lovely guy named Naz. And when he got to a certain age and decided to retire, then we took over the premises as our second restaurant. Naz lived upstairs, and I used to pop up quite regularly and help him out with this, that and the other. Sadly, he passed away quite recently. Now, upstairs is actually really sizable, and it's on 3 levels, including right at the very top there, there's a fully converted attic that could almost be an entirely self-contained flat. And it's the upstairs there that we are planning to turn into an Airbnb hotel, and that's going to be my pet little project, and I will run it in partnership with Vishnu, and hopefully that's going to be happening quite soon. As you can see, it's got its own entrance there. There's also access from inside the restaurant. So the intention was to film the last little bit here in the restaurant, but there are still customers. It's been another busy night, so I'll do it in the car on the way home. Right, so same happened as last night. Planning to film. It's been a really busy night. Haven't had chance to do anything other than what we're supposed to be doing, which is serving customers amazing food in an amazing way, and that's what we've been doing. So what else is there to tell you? So the restaurant is a Nepali restaurant that serves Indian food with our own twist on it. We make it a lot tastier and a lot healthier. We do various fusion dishes, and we do a selection of Nepali dishes, some of which quite honestly have been tweaked or manipulated for European palates. There are a couple of things on the menu that are genuine things that we eat ourselves. And you'll notice I say we, because half of every day now I am, to all intents and purposes, I am Nepali. I'm surrounded by my Nepali family. They speak to me in Nepali. We eat Nepali food. So, yep, that pretty much concludes the story and brings us up to date. So, technically my official title is General Manager, but that's neither here nor there really. We work as a family, and I'm as devoted to them as they are to me, and no matter what happens with anything else in life, as long as I'm able to, I will still be at one of or the other or both restaurants, or another restaurant if we do open another one. The point is, it's become a lifelong thing. So even if my YouTube channel took off and I was suddenly earning really good money, I'd still be at the restaurant every evening, because it's home and it's family, and I am very passionate about it, and I'm very devoted to it. So there you go, that's that. So life is pretty wonderful. I love my work. It doesn't seem like work. I'm blessed by the people around me, and God knows I eat like an absolute king. The only slight fly in the ointment is that as things stand, financially things are a real struggle. I'm just at that awkward point of financial existence where I don't really have enough income to live comfortably, or barely to keep my head above water, but I don't earn little enough that I can claim this, that and the other. So it's that awkward awkward middle section where, and as I covered in a previous video, there are various ways in which I don't help myself, because there are certain little things in life that I don't want to go without, like a bottle of wine of an evening, and quite honestly can't really afford that, but I'm sure that that will change in the future. Perhaps the YouTube thing will become more financially rewarding. I'm certainly putting the effort in. Perhaps the Airbnb thing will happen. Well, in fact, I'm pretty certain that it will happen, and I'm pretty certain that it will work. So I'm happy now, and I'm excited about the future. So there you go. I hope that one or two of you maybe found some of that of some sort of interest. And if you're still watching now, well done. Thank you so much for watching, as always. It really wouldn't be the same without you. Have a safe and peaceful night, a great day ahead, and take really good care of yourselves. Much love from me, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.